Hey guys. Okay, I am going to be answering this comment. This lovely gentleman was kind enough to comment on the twin flame video I did last night in regards to the Netflix documentary. If you are curious and want to learn about a twin flame journey, or you think that you might be a twin flame, please do not watch that documentary. They are not true twin flames, and they are brainwashing people with a false narrative and selling them fool's gold. I highly recommend you go back and watch the first video. If not, I am going to get into it a little bit deeper here. This lovely gentleman was asking if I could advise him on the fact if he was in a twin flame dynamic, because he was curious if somebody that he was romantically involved with would return to him. Unfortunately, the answer for him is no, he is not a twin flame. However, that doesn't mean that the person he was romantically involved could not return to him. He was, however, in a divine soulmate connection, very different from a twin flame. I'm going to dive deeper into the twin flame journey with my spiritual knowledge, and then I will show the difference of that compared to a soulmate dynamic. Twin flames. Jesus and Mary Magdalene were the very first twin flames to ever walk planet Earth. Jesus was originally sent down to Earth in order to teach God's way. God's way is purely authentic, unconditional love. We, as human beings, are created in God's image. God is balanced in divine femininity and divine masculinity. He sent Jesus here to earth already balanced, completely whole in his image, while all the humans around Jesus were not balanced. They were either operating in toxic masculinity or toxic femininity due to the masculine's hunger and ego for power. That would be Lucifer, falling to earth for challenging God for his power. God's lesson? He was sent to earth school, where now he was being challenged with Lilith. Lilith was the very first divine feminine to ever walk earth. When God sent her here, like Jesus, she was already balanced in her femininity and her masculinity. However, she identified as a divine feminine in order to teach Lucifer, who was operating in toxic masculinity. She was literally light, pure love. However, Lucifer chose, with his free will, not to learn the lesson. Thus, the enslavement of divine femininity began. Fast forward to today, that is how long the divine feminine has been held captive. 2028 years ago, God sent Jesus in order to correct the enslavement of divine femininity. However, man was operating in such toxic, dark masculinity that even though Jesus did serve a purpose, he did fulfill his mission, things did not go down the way we know that they went down. The Bible is not accurate by any means. There's very little in that text that actually happened the way it was written. And a giant portion of that was the book of Mary Magdalene that houses literally the how-to when it comes to balancing your divine feminine and your divine masculine within, in order to create and achieve your own Christ consciousness, which is developing your own identity, your autonomy, your inner wisdom, strengthening your intuition, aligning the chakras, opening the channel. For men, you root. Women, you soar. We are the antenna. Divine feminines are the antenna. Men are the earthly protectors. Divine earthly protectors. Both jobs very important. But yes, women lead the way. And men's ego and power-hungry selves didn't like that, which is why we are still in the predicament that we are in today. And what's happening, there is a mass awakening in the divine feminine because she has been suppressed for far too long. It's like a caged animal. She has been backed into the corner for far too long, and now her rage is actually propelling her love. And it hasn't been until recently where the Book of Mary Magdalene, Lilith, Enoch, everything is starting to resurface that man tried to delete from us knowing. Christ's consciousness was always internal. It was never in a temple. It was never in some four-wall building with your hands raised to the sky. And Christ's consciousness is actually just the balancing of divine femininity with divine masculinity. And God chose twin flames to teach this because twin flames have the hardest job here on earth. We don't go through all of the complete worst traumatic experiences in the world. We do, however, go through the most repeated trauma in our lifetime. That statement actually ties into the newest study that I'm doing on my twin flame journey called It's All Connected. I am deep diving into specifically abuse with neurodivergence. However, it does apply to neurotypical as well. This is all being linked through neuroscience, psychology, quantum physics, astrology, spirituality. A twin flame goes through all of those steps. Also, in a twin flame dynamic, it's extremely negatively karmic, borderline toxic, not abusive toxic like hitting or physical assault. The toxicity you're mainly dealing with is mental and emotional. In a twin flame dynamic, neither of you are growing. There is also only one giver and one taker. There is no equal reciprocity in that relationship whatsoever. The divine feminine's job is to overgive and people please, while the divine masculine's job is to take, avoid, come back for an ego fix, avoid, rinse, and repeat. This is showing up in every single romantic encounter you have in your life, including when you finally meet your true twin flame, the other half of your soul in the meat suit itself.